Well, good morning and welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Heavyweights podcast. We have turned the corner of 100 episodes. We are now on the other side at episode 101. And I'm Ashton Hines, one half of the Real Estate Heavyweights. The brief introduction, I'm an agent for 4.5 years, flipped 4 houses, have a rental I'm selling today. And I have bought and sold a lot of houses for folks out there. And the person who's taught me a lot about that is my co-host, one of my best friends, good dude overall, Tavis of Westbrook. What's up, Tavis?
Hello. Episode 101.
101. Yes, there was a time when I was really getting burned out and I'm like, dude, I just got to get to 100. So, we're to 100 and we've got some vision for the future. So we're just going to keep doing it and keep putting it out there, and we'll just keep on trying.
Stuff to talk about. So
we do talk every day about real estate. So you might as well that's kind of what this has turned into, is we're bringing you into our day in and day out conversations about real estate, flipping and valuing properties for flips and working with clients and trying to, a lot of our conversations hinge on me trying to grow more of a traditional business and starting from scratch and doing the things like open houses and calling on circle prospecting and finding lists of different things to talk about, to call people on. And so I'm trying to grow that part. I'm actually right now really spending a ton of time. I've probably spent solid 6 to 8 hours. I haven't logged it, staring at a spreadsheet for my neighborhood. We have about 400 homes in our neighborhood. And I had so someone mentioned something on Facebook the other day about wanting to protest taxes. And I've actually never been through the actual process. I did sit through a class recently. I'm like, I'm going to do that. But now we're selling our house. And so I'm debating on it. It won't have a real impact on me. It would have an impact maybe on the next person, but I'm not sure. I kind of almost just want to go through the process just because, but I just don't know the timing if it's going to work out. But anyway, I sat through a really good class from this guy who's from the Texas A&M Ag Real Estate School. You know what I'm talking about? The Texas A&M Real Estate Department. Well, he was going around and doing these classes at title companies, and he had been to a bunch of counties talking to the actual appraisers and the people who made these decisions to say, like, how do you best argue your value? And so he basically had the people on the other side of the table tell him, this is what you do. These are the people who are most successful. This is the argument they make. This is the data they bring us. And what's interesting is he was kind of saying, like, you don't need a realtor. It was an odd way to start a class full of realtors. But it's like, you don't really need a realtor. I'll show you how to find it on the county site. And you just go and you look at other like properties in your neighborhood, and you can look at the land value and the house value, and both of them you treat separately. And so if they've increased your land value sort of he calls it an unequitable fashion. If there's someone that's nearby you that's lower, you can say, hey, this isn't equitable. You valued their land at $157,000. Our lot sizes are almost the exact same. Mine's at $175,000. That's not equitable. Okay, there's $25,000 right there. Now that's the argument stuff. Now let's look at my house. My house is this, it's this. There's another one right around the corner that's very similar. They're valued at this. That's not equitable. I want, and so you make those arguments. And it doesn't really, I would think that the market is really moving downward. Doing sold comps doesn't really mean a whole lot, because for them, they don't quite know, okay, was this a distress sale? What's going on here? So they go off.
They do it. They basically do it in comparison to other tax assessed values. So they actually,
that's their data.
Their data is separated between, your land value and your improvement value. Which the odd thing was for me this year, I did been getting a couple of these new statements in, and what they did is they flipped it. So they increased our values only went up, like on our primary residence, maybe $5,000. So that's cool. I can live with that. And it's still undervalue and this is kind of my argument. Like, if I'm undervalued on the total tax assessed value from what I know I could sell it for, I have a hard time kind of arguing that. Especially if it's like couple $100,000. Like it's, like I know other investors that make it a point every year and they hire like a company because they have a big rental portfolio. So it's beneficial to them to save a couple $1,000. But it also costs you a couple $1,000 when you go through, a company that does it because they take a percentage.
They take a percentage of the savings.
Of the savings, right? So what I was going to say is so one thing I saw was that they flipped it this year where they decreased my improvement value. So they decreased the improvement value, my house, but they increased my land value. And it was like a $50,000 swing, but they reversed it, which is interesting. But I just saw them like doing that on the last couple statements that I saw, and I was like, huh. So
I think you could go in. So I just shared my screen, and I'm going to show you my neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so I think you could probably, I may be wrong, but I think you could go in and you could argue the land value and just say, look, you just increased my land value by 50,000. And if they say, well, we're balancing it out, but according to this guy, you can treat them basically separately and say, look, the land is the land and my next door neighbor is the exact same lot size and you're valuing it at this. Why would my land be valued here? Now let's look at improvements. Okay, I've done this. I took a permit out for this, and I understand that my improvements are a little bit more, whatever. Now, they may not go with it, but that's how you argue it. And what's interesting, so I haven't finished the spreadsheet yet, which I did all this manually, probably like an idiot. I'm sure there's an automatic way to do
that. They did that on Shady Hill, too. I want to say that I saw that.
Yeah,
I saw that on Shady Hill, too.
His overall value at Shady Hill evidently was assessed before some of the improvements. But so what's interesting here is
there's no improvements over there as far as they're concerned.
Yeah. I mean, just a few, you polish the floor a little bit.
Yeah. So, we painted the exterior of the house.
Yeah. So over here in column K, for those of you listening, I'm looking at a spreadsheet, and basically what I've done is I've taken all the values. I created a formula that said, what's the percentage increase? Because in the state of Texas, they're not supposed to be able to increase your overall value by more than 10%. And so I want to clarify on that, but I'm pretty sure that's accurate. They can't increase your property tax more than 10% in any given year.
As long as there's not a sale, though. If there's a sale that takes place and it's a new owner, then they can.
Okay, so that now I need to go double check these with sales, because I highlighted these red here when they jumped. So this year, this one jumped to 19.71%. And then I've got this one's a 10%, 11%. And then there's a few streets where like this is a 21% jump, which is funny because they went from their overall assessed value in 2023 was 971. It went down to 838 for some reason. And then it's like they tried to make good on it. And this year it's 1,019,000. Mm-hmm. So there's something weird that went on with this house. I need to see as far as comps go. But overall, like you can look in the whole neighborhood, up 23%, up 11%, 14, 13.
And so your land value is the middle column there on H.
Yeah, my land value is over here. So what I'm going to do now, so over here,
so land value's been pretty consistent in your neighborhood. They haven't made a lot of adjustments there.
Yep. They've been pretty, now right here, it jumped in 20, I don't know why I have 22 in here, but, between 22 and 23, a lot of values jumped. I think a lot of people could have argued during that time, but I don't know that they did. And the trick is to find someone who's argued 4 or 5 years in a row and they just steady kept their value down. Mm-hmm. And then you can use theirs as like, hey, this is the exact same builder. This is the same year built. They're right around the corner. Why am I this and they're that? And it doesn't take 9 different properties. My understanding is to prove this. You can just
probably 3 or 4.
Yeah, you just make your argument like, hey, this is not equitable. And the big phrase is, this is not equitable. And so anyway, I'm going to trick up this spreadsheet a little bit more. Like here's the lot size. So I'm going to do like a kind of a price per square foot based on your lot size to see if like you're out of line with everybody else. I'm going to do the same with square footage of your house and your property. Now, some of these have pools and all that stuff. Some of them have sold. But anyway, I've done the hard part at this point of entering all this data, and now I can actually just work on formulas and try to come up with an easy way to tell people, yep, you you have a good argument. You should look at 426, 4621 Man-O-War should be one of your comps.
Got it.
Anyway, that's
very cool.
Something fun I've been working on there. I know you're big on over at Montego in Dallas. We just did a video, and it's going and blowing over there.
4616 versus 4620 is a big jump in value on improvements.
Yeah,
and the square footage is similar. You got 4620 versus 4616. Oh no.
Well, their square footage is right there.
2585.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I was reading that wrong,
but I mean,
okay. But yeah, that's a good way to break it down, though. So,
but here, look at this. So just these two right here: 4621 Man-O-War versus 4616 Man-O-War. The square footage of this one is actually 250 less.
Oh, it's less. Yeah.
But their property is valued at 645, and the one that's bigger is at 559. Now, maybe there's a pool involved, or maybe there's something else
when it
going
could have
on.
been. Yeah, but that's
a discrepancy right there. That's almost that's $80,000 ish.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean I'm gonna give my whole neighborhood this as a gift from the real estate world, and hopefully there's no other realtors chimed in on this Facebook group, and so I'm hoping that I can kind of add some value to some of these folks and be
nice. Well, I think
helpful.
that this is good that you took this takeaways, because for me, I've never broken it down like that. I've never looked at it from land to improvements. Anytime I've ever looked at it, I just kind of look at it from,
the big number,
CMA or our sales data.
Yep.
Because what I understand, and the county doesn't break it down when they do appraisals. It's not like a normal appraisal. They're looking at, is there any recent sold price that can give me an indicator of what the property sold for? For instance, Aaron's house, is on MLS, sold for 625 or whatever the number is.
Yeah.
And the tax assessed value now has increased to 635, and that's what they have. They have that data to support it. So they want to get, close to that last sales price to identify what that value is. And so I've always kind of known it as it's an algorithm, kind of a combined value from, tax assessed value, as well as, recent solds in the area, and, however they break it down. So obviously there's more to it if, they segregate it the way they do between land value and improved value. And I don't know exactly what their algorithm is, but, it's not like you have an appraiser that goes to every single house.
No, they have to use some sort of technology. And
yeah,
it's weird because the more I stare at this, I'm like, okay, there's just not a lot of rhyme or reason to know what's making one go up and down. And obviously in their computer, it makes sense. And there's a lot of different in our neighborhood. The other thing too is if you know the neighborhood, there's sections where the lots are bigger, and these were actually nicer homes. And there was 3 or 4 builders when it first came in, and so the base price of some of these were more. But anyway, I'm hoping to be able to connect with some people in the neighborhood. I think
that
real estate,
the key is looking to see if there's a recent sales history, because if there is,
I'm gonna look at that.
Then
next.
they can push back on that, right? Because they can push back and go, well, your tax assessed value is not, unless you can prove that they bought it in 22 and they paid in an inflated price point. Now, it's not supported.
Yeah. So anyway, the bottom line is, like, I get to have real estate conversations with people in my neighborhood who have really nice houses.
Yeah,
and so that's really
a niche
the big,
that you can focus on, and it's not.
When I think Jordan Bellinger, when he was on our podcast, he talked a lot about, he talks a lot about property tax. About that. He's really big into it. So I actually probably could learn something from him. But knowing how successful this has been this year, I think next year I'll just even be more prepared going into the tax season. And
then you could pick apart other neighborhoods, right?
Yeah, exactly.
This one is one that you can focus on, but definitely
I could build
work through this, and it doesn't hurt you to do it kind of throughout the year too.
Yeah, I could just kind of pick a neighborhood as a project, and then have that, and then whenever the new numbers come out, just go through and add the new numbers, or have a VA add the new numbers over across several or something like that. So anyway, that's been fun.
Yeah.
All right. Just real quick check in on Montego. You've got that's your one flip going. You've got a contract under your other two that are on the market, which is awesome. And hopefully they work out. You're in the option.
One active construction, I guess we should say.
Active construction.
Technically the flips are under contract, but they haven't closed yet. So
correct. So active
closing soon. Active construction. I'm feeling a little empty-handed. Running 3 or 4 at a time. And then getting down to one.
Yeah.
Kind of like, okay.
We're going to go look at one today. It's not super promising. You've already put a number in there. It's a little bit lower than what they're asking, but it is in a good area. It's in a good part of Carrollton that we're familiar with. And I'm going to go walk it. You may go with me here in a little bit. So that's kind of our time constraint on that. But yeah, I mean, after I finish after I can kind of connect with my people on this, tax stuff, I really hope to really dive in to try to find, let's call some other agents and let's just try to get some activity going. Trying to find a house for you. Try to get to that 20 number for the year, which is lofty, but it's doable. But you got to keep a deal flow going. But maybe it'll happen where you get like 5 in a row.
I mean, that's the unfortunate part, with the business is that it and that's not to say I haven't got leads. The last several days I've gotten leads. It's just a matter of, is it the right area? Does the numbers make sense? Is it something I want to mess with? Like I reached out to, my guys over at Myers earlier in the week. I was like, what do you have? I need to take one down. And they're like, well, we got one in Savannah. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm good on that.
I'm good on Savannah.
And it was a, $500,000 ARV one. And I'm like, no, I don't really want to go down that rodeo again. And then we had another one that, North Dallas. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. Midway Hollow. Cool. He sends me the address. It's on Walnut Hill. And I'm like, no, I'm good. Like
facing one of the biggest roads.
And look, I know beggars can't be choosers, but the thing is, like, a lot of this calculation into my business and into the flipping is also speed is a big part of the name of the game, right?
Right. Speed of money.
And it when you deal with something like that's on a busy street, you've got a name already that is a red flag to everybody, and including me, which is why I'm seeing it going, no. The other part is knowing the age built. And a lot of those are built in the 50s and the 60s. They're hammered. They're going to eat money. There's a lot of money and effort that goes into just infrastructure, and you went through that on Mapleton, right? Like, now, mind you, you had the budget for it. That went also back to a busy street, but we were prepared. The numbers made sense. There was a lot of calculation that went into that to do that project. When I took it down and then wholesaled it to you, and, you still came out on top, right? And if you had the tools that you have today with the teams in place that we have, together collaboratively, which, you did have the teams that helped you towards the end, but you wasted a lot of money in the beginning with the wrong GC. And unfortunately, there was a lot of potential equity gain that you gave away to the wrong people. And timeline.
Spend it on education. If there was a college class that I had spent, an extra $25,000 on, and I could be like, well, I went to a semester of college, everyone would have been like, that's good for you.
Exactly.
Getting back out there and teaching yourself. But when you lose it on a flip, they're like, maybe you should try something different. Haven't learned a lot.
No, you got to keep going, man. It's the saying, is you don't fail until you quit,
Right.
So, and nevertheless, I mean, there's an equation with that. Yes, I want, I need more deals, but it have to be the right deals. And you have to be able to play red light, green light, and you have to be able to know which ones are worth chasing and taking the risk on. I mean, we talked about it here recently. The one that we just took down that we're under contract as of this week, that's on Alameda and Carrollton. A couple things that I didn't like about it. One was, the floor plan. It's a split level floor plan. It's not popular in Texas. It is in a neighborhood where those things exist. And the floor plan is very popular over there. The more that I'm doing it now, you see them like almost every other house.
Yeah.
But that's kind of hurt me a little bit because I have two comps that are lesser value that are similar in square footage that are under market. And so that made I had to basically reduce my ARV to make the numbers work and get it under contract quick. So therefore, left some money on the table doing that. And we were able to do the project quickly. But when I bought it, the place wasn't in horrible condition, and it could have sold on MLS. So the catch-22 on that was doing the deal to have the opportunity for convenience. And, the spread wasn't that big. Like I only had like a $30-something thousand spread if everything went correctly. And right off the top, I had to change the ARV, reduce the price down to drive people in the door. Ultimately, we got it under contract within a couple days, just over the first weekend. But I mean, net returns only like 25 grand, so it's a really skinny deal for the price point of the property, right?
Yeah.
Because I think I bought it for $332 and change, and then $60-something thousand in reno. So I mean, you're in it for like $390, almost $400,000, and I'm under contract for $445, which was the asking price. So when you do the math on it, just there's not a lot of room, but the old school way somebody looks at it and goes, "Oh, that's $100,000 spread," or "You got $110,000 spread. You're doing good." Huh?
Right,
no,
right. You got a lot of factors in there.
And exactly, but it's another one to add to the list, and the numbers they all add up. So
yeah,
it's just something to know when you're in this business and you're running a flipping business. To understand that sometimes you take some of these deals, even though they're not super sexy, to keep the ball moving, but you have to be careful doing that, because if you do one that is going to eat money, it's going to take a longer time, and you don't have a lot of yield in it, it easily can become a negative number, and that's what we don't want.
Right. Do not want the negative, but yeah, base hits, nice base hits, nothing wrong with that. All right, let's talk about a little bit of a market update.
Let's do it.
All right, so let's get into our screen that we've been looking at last several times. Here is the overall houses, new listings, back on markets, price decreases. The price decreases have actually really reduced over the last couple of weeks. It was over 10% of the market. It was 4,500 or so price decreases every time we would look at it, of the 7-day look back. Now it's 2,600. It's been decreasing. So I think part of it is just the spring market. There's more activity. Things are moving a little bit quicker. People are not having to decrease as much in order to get activity. And also we've had similar mortgage rates for a while, and people are getting comfortable with their pricing. But I think a lot of it just has to, this is the busy time. So people are out there looking, and if you're new to the market and you price appropriately, then you're hopefully not having to do a bunch of price decreases. And watching the market in my neighborhood to try to see how fast things are moving and where I should be priced is interesting. And, really looking at, okay, is their backyard? My best comp is right down the street. It's similar square footage. The house inside, I would say, is very similar. And I actually like ours a little bit better, but I mean, it's just kind of design. There's nothing structural or anything like that. It's just more of a feel. But we haven't really done a whole lot with our backyard. We've got a little bit of gardening, some beds, decent beds or whatever, but they have a putting green. They don't have any real grass, but they have a putting green, and then they have kind of an outdoor kitchen set up, which is better. Now, I guess it's better unless you have a dog or something. It's like, we can't really have them peeing and pooping all over the putting green. Maybe that turns some people off, I don't know. But
I mean, you just have to clean it up every day. So.
Right.
The turf is actually pretty easy to maintain. I mean, I have the turf in, one of my midterms, and it's pretty easy to maintain it, right? It's easy to pick up, pick up the waste, and easy to spray it down. So
right. My neighbors have it, and they actually paid for a service to come through, and I think it's once a month. So they sort of do the day in and day out pickup. Yeah, they kind of do this brush. It's like a roto brush.
Yep.
Sounds like a weed eater when it's going, but it's spinning these bristles, and then they put the deodorant in, they spray. They spend about an hour out there doing just different things.
Might need that contact, because I've got some areas in that turf, and I try to reach out to the installer, and they haven't got back to me.
Yeah, no, this is all they do. This is what they do. So
yeah, I need to do that in the house Richardson, just fluff it back up. And he's,
Yeah,
they're like the main walkway is kind of matted down. So.
Yeah. Well, I can get that to you for sure. So overall, expireds are way down, cancels are down because, again, things are moving. So let's look over at our trending line. This is a 10-year trend line. Let's look at days on market. This should hopefully be coming down. Sure enough, it's coming down. Average MLS 67. We peaked at 72. So yes, it is doing what it should be doing during this time of year, which is nice. New listings, I'm sure, is way up. So new listings are at 18,900. And let's look at our homes for sale. Still at a very, very high level. 10-year high is 44,000. This is showing that we peaked in October at 46,000, and then now we're at 43. So we still have a ton of houses for sale.
Yeah. And again, this is the whole art, or entire MLS. I mean, if you look at our three main counties, Dallas, Denton, and Collin, we're on trend. Nothing's crazy. Really out of whack.
I mean, it did peak over here. I mean, it still does have that bump in October.
It did peak, and
then it is going up. But yeah, I mean, let's look at one more thing: percentage of price. So this is leveling out a little bit, where it's 96% of that original asking. So people are getting 3.5% discount on average. So nice springtime trends look pretty normal. Nothing looking super out of place. Shows depending, we haven't looked at that in a while. 13, it's usually around 10. 10 to 13 is kind of the number for a long time. No matter what that market is, that's kind of what it's like. Either they happen in the first week and it sells really quick, or it happens over a course of 2 months. But 13 shows depending is kind of the number.
Well, that's great. It's a great indicator, right? When you're listing property, is kind of, what are you doing to get those showings? And you need approximately 10 showings to get one offer. Has kind of been our rule of thumb, but according to MLS, looks like average is about 13. So that number's gone up a little bit depending on what you're doing with price and pictures and all of those things. So I will tell you that we've just now built staging into our cost.
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean on our flips, right? And I just now add staging as part of my expenses.
You're doing that separate from like your overall. You're doing that as a separate line item whenever you're doing
exactly. Yeah. Okay. It's a separate line item as part of the renovation. And what are you normally like
2,500 or?
Yeah, it's usually lately it's been about 2,600 for 4 rooms.
Okay.
And so that's been very reasonable. It's worth it. It makes all the difference in the world, I think. In fact, the people in Garland are buying some of this furniture. So I've connected them with the staging company, and they're working out negotiations to buy some of the furniture that's in the house.
Nice.
So
cool. Yeah. We're going to look at a few houses here in a little bit that could use some nice staging. So let's talk about a little bit of news. And we've mentioned this because this is one of my favorite restaurants, Chuy's. I will be going to Chuy's Thursday for a friend's birthday. They started in Austin. I've been to Chuy's probably more than any other restaurant ever. And so this one down here, down in Knox Henderson area off of McKinney, I've been here multiple times with Daniel's a piano player. And he's an investor. I don't know
if Daniel ever listened. Or did Chuy's change over the years? Because I feel like when Chuy's was in Austin, it was extremely good. It was definitely I remember the Chewy Chongo back in the day. It was like you had to get it, it was like ridiculously good. And then I remember when this Chuy's opened here in Dallas, everyone was excited and we'd make the trip down there. And I remember this being pretty good, but now that Chuy's has kind of become this chain.
I think it's a chain thing. And I don't know for a fact how they prepare their food or where they source their food, but I kind of agree that something about it does feel a little bit more mass produced. And I don't know if they have these big kitchens and they send out some of their stuff to their restaurants to where it's just a little bit more manufactured chain kind of food feeling. Yeah, I agree. And now I will say, I do feel like in the last year or two, they have started at least altering their menu a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
To where when you go in, there's something different to try.
I feel like it's turned into a little bit of an on the border kind of feel.
Shame on you.
I know. But
well, they did close on the border in Plano. We did see that the other day. Yeah.
I did. I mean, I love Chewy's. Like, it was a staple when we went to Austin, when I lived in Austin for a short period of time when I was 18 years old. And then, you know, shortly after, Tabitha's cousin lives outside of Austin, and we'd go down, and it was like a staple when we went in town.
Yeah.
We had to go to the Chewy's that was off of
Lamar. We used to go off the one off of Lamar down there. That was one of the original ones.
Yeah. It's Lamar down on the south side, like near, as you get closer to what's the big pool, the big
Barton Springs.
Yeah, Barton Springs.
I don't know.
Is that where that one's at?
Yeah, no, it's a little bit further north. I mean, there's a bunch of them, and I'm sure there's some I've never been to. But
okay.
Well, this one here down in Knox Henderson, we had mentioned it because I've been to this one specifically several times, and they're closing it, and luckily they're closing it to build a 300,000 square foot development for retail and office.
Trammel Crow's at it again.
Yeah. So I was thinking the other day, you know what we need is some more retail and office.
So they're taking down that whole corner, like basically.
They must be. Yeah, they must be. But they did say that this Chewy's is going to move down to Lower Granville. And so we will still be able to enjoy it kind of in the similar area. But yeah, that's a very valuable part of town. And there's an Apple store down there.
It's right on the edge. I mean, you got Katy Trail. You know, right there, and you've got
if you're talking about highest,
you're right on the edge of Highland Park schools right there too. So
if you're talking about highest and best use, you know, a Trammel Crow 10-story building is probably a little bit ahead of the Chewy's. That's a little old. So anyway, kind of a bummer, but I did find out that they're moving to Lower Greenville, which is interesting. Also, according to the Dallas Morning News, I'll skip to this one. Nvidia announced. So Nvidia is the big chip maker for AI, and they had announced this initiative, I think last year, maybe 2 years ago, about a $500 billion United States manufacturing initiative. Part of this is going in over near Abilene. They had announced a little bit of work over near Abilene, which is a big deal. Well, 2 weeks ago, which we didn't talk about, they announced that they're going to be building some large manufacturing facilities in Dallas and in Houston. And the estimate that I saw here was, overall, they say in the next 12 to 15 months, it's going to ramp up. And they estimate hundreds of thousands of jobs are going to be between these places, between the construction and the overall workforce. It's going to be a huge deal. Now, they haven't announced exactly where it's going to be yet in the DFW area. But being a part of a $500 billion, plan overall is pretty pretty crazy. And that Dallas and Houston are both going to get a part of that. So that was really big news. There's another article that I closed out on. It was talking about all the stuff going up into Sherman and Denison, and I knew there was some, but there's even more than I knew about. It's like this synergy that once one thing goes in, then another one announces, and another one announces, and man, that area is really
well. And I mean, it makes sense, right? Geographically,
it's on the edge.
Across 82 there, and then if you ever looked, 289 on the tollway gets really close to to 75 up there.
Yeah.
So like it really kind of narrows that triangle, and so like as they extend the tollway to 82. It's not very far to go from the tollway over to Sherman at that point,
Yeah.
So I think from commuting and back and forth, and I mean, look at what they've done in Austin, right? Once they built that tollway out looping around where Tesla is and the Gigafactory, look how much development's out on that side of town.
Yep.
It's very similar, right? Lots of like manufacturing type plants and stuff like that have blown up over there.
Well, speaking of that, we'll go to our next story, which is, it talked about, I guess the Dallas Morning News did a survey of the candidates for Dallas City Council, which I don't know how much you would have to pay me to deal with those people. going to city council meetings. I mean, I'm glad some people volunteer for it, but they're wanting to know like where they stand on certain things. And what's really funny is a lot of this article is like, so these three people were, did not respond with a comment. I'm like, what do you gain from that? Like, you're not saying anything. Oh, I don't want to take a stand on housing, but they ask all these people that are running for city council, like, what would be your solution for more affordable housing in Dallas? And it got me thinking, what would I do if I was tasked with trying to educate a city council or really try to push for something? Mm-hmm. And when you said the Tesla Gigafactory, if you drive the Tesla from, let's say, Round Rock, and you're coming from north to south, going towards the F1 track right there, mm-hmm. on your left, you can see this huge new neighborhood that is part mobile home, part, I think, just very affordable, all siding, super small footprint, like 3 2s or 2 1s or something mm-hmm. like that. And they're really close together off to the left.
Yeah.
And so that's obviously something that they have zoned to be okay with. And that's very close to town. Yeah. And I've always thought, like, I wonder how that'll age. What will that place look like in 20 years? And so if, we just had a dinner with Lawrence, I'm a buddy from California. He's really big into ADUs, additional dwelling units. He's an expert mm-hmm. in that field in California, because over in California and in Seattle and now Austin, these places where land is so expensive, they have to be creative. And so they've changed their zoning laws that allow for additional dwelling units in backyards. So I think that's probably where we're going. What would your, so I would say speeding up the red tape, reducing some of the red tape, but there's a balance of, okay, we need some zoning laws. We need some baseline construction rules for safety and all that stuff. So yep. Like what do you think the things are that we need to approve more? One guy suggested more duplexes and triplexes, and some people are vehemently opposed to the apartments. Some people want more apartments. Some people want ADUs. Right. Yeah. Like, what are your thoughts on the how to make things more affordable?
It's a good question. I mean, the challenge becomes, cost of land, and then cost of development, and cost of, vertical infrastructure. And that's just, even if you look at like manufactured products, manufactured homes, or, kit homes, modular buildings and stuff, all that has increased too. Like none of it is very affordable anymore. Like a lot of it has gone up. Like so the question becomes, define affordable housing. Right. Does that mean $100,000, acquisition, 150, 200,000, 300,000? What are we talking?
Right.
And then trying to back into that to see what would be feasible to build. I mean, I think essentially you're talking, most developers and most new construction now anywhere near the city of Dallas, right, or any central part of the city of Dallas, because the dirt value is so expensive, you're having to build 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 square feet to make the dollar per foot math make sense on values. Right. And so you end up with these big houses and big expenses. And so now you're talking, average $2.5 million, $3 million, $4 million on these, new construction properties.
Right.
If you could pick off a piece of land, let's say, I think to get dirt cheap enough, you're probably going to have to go south of I-30, which is relatively, lower housing income, south of I-30 in Dallas. There's not a lot of jobs to support there. There's issues with, lack of grocery stores, lack of retail, because of the demand and the income that comes out of that.
Right.
But even like places like Bonton, where I've spent a lot of time and volunteered a lot over the years, even now, I mean, you're probably paying close to $300,000 for property down there, which is just bizarre. I mean,
right.
10 years ago, we were buying stuff under 100 that was like Section 8, zoned housing, and, Habitat for Humanity was building properties down there and stuff like that, trying to do it.
Yeah.
But what happens is then you have the Section 8 vouchers that come in, and the vouchers would support even back then, $1,500 a month in rent,
Right.
$1,700, $2,000 in rent. Well, what happens is then that increases the value of the properties, right?
Yep.
So then now you're
Right.
talking $100,000 property now is worth 250
Yeah. And then you
because of
look
the
run
rent support it.
comps, like, well, but they just sold this one around the corner for
Exactly.
250.
So
Yeah.
I
Yep.
think what you'd have to do is like buy up a large piece of land, or, City of Dallas would, donate something, whether they tear down something that's, part of their property, or something they own. I don't know. Maybe it's a school zoning, a school that's no longer,
Right.
in business or something like that. And then subdivide it up and essentially build like 1,000 square foot, 2 bedroom, 2 baths, or something
Right.
along those lines. Or maybe it's a 3-1 community, and, build it with, hardy and just build a very simple, kind of dwelling units that would go in there, that could be for sale potentially, and then have a homeowners association that supports it. But again, there has to be some regulation there, because it's so easy to go in and buy something that cheap and then turn it into a rental and then use the Section 8 vouchers and raise the
Yeah.
rents again. So I don't know. It's a very challenging conversation to talk truly what's affordable housing and what does
Yeah.
that look like.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of aspects, and I'm sure they'll argue a lot about it. And there's obviously no one great solution. Every once in a while, we'll see an article about a new building material or process. It's like, oh, this is going to reduce the cost of this. And I guess maybe there's a chance that somehow with AI and automation, there's a way to do really well-built kind of tract type homes that are less expensive, that can go up super fast. And who knows, maybe there's a technology that would solve some of this, and maybe some of the commercial buildings.
I mean, even like
converted,
even buying a manufactured home, right? Like you drive down any major highway, going out East Texas or something off I-30, and you see these, dealers that are selling,
yeah,
the new modular manufactured homes. They look great. They've
Yeah.
done a really good job cosmetically dressing these things up. But we kind of poked around with the idea when I bought that land out in East Texas for my mom, and I thought, should we just tear this house down and buy one of these?
Yeah.
And they were $100,000, $125,000, $130,000 to do that, and then you still having to worry about utilities. You still got to hook up utilities. You might still have to pour a slab or permanent foundation underneath it. So by the time you did it all, you probably still in the thing for $150,000, $160,000.
Yeah.
At that point, it's like, why not build something? Why not stick?
I've got a trailer you could buy now near Cedar Creek Lake for right around 100.
Yeah. By the way, if anyone's listening and you want numbers make sense, I think that these guys that own it would probably sell it for less, even though they don't really want to give us a number, but they want it sold. And it's a new place, like brand new, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and has it's the lot, it's the land in the manufactured home.
Yep.
It's on the south side of Cedar Creek Lake.
It's not waterfront or water view, but it is in a neighborhood that has properties that are. It's very close to the lake. The house itself is really
for
nice.
$1,000 a month. So
you could rent it.
Somebody's
Yeah,
looking
it's a 1%
to park money
rental.
in a rental. This is an easy one to do. So
I got one for you, and we're trying to help a friend out move with this. So, all right, let's move to our last segment where we're going to just talk about a few homes. We haven't done this in a little while because it is a little bit more visual, but I enjoy this part. So I got one talking about land value. I just thought this was nuts because we're about to be, when is the home tour, the White Rock home tour? When is it coming up?
I think it's next week. I need to pull it up.
So I like
the window to be a sponsor this year. So
yeah. Okay. So this is on Lawler, which is this overlooks White Rock Lake. Gorgeous. 3505 West Lawler Drive. There's only 3 pictures. This is a 3,790 square foot, 1955 for real mid-century modern. And they want $3.3 million for it. Like, hey, we need an offer at 3.3. We're only going to give you 3 pictures, and you probably have this. That's on an acre. Okay, so it's an acre overlooking White Rock Lake. See, this might be Anthony Davis's house. Let's pose let's text Anthony and say, look, here's our vision. You can overlook the lake. You got an acre. We got a little bit of work with here. So, but look at this great view over the lake, 3505 West Lawler. Look at that house.
Oh yeah,
that's a for real mid-century, 1955.
Yeah.
Now over here on the left, do you think that in like 1984 they put a
no? That's
another that. That's not real, right? I mean, that's not original.
That's not real.
I mean, it's real.
That's added. Yeah.
Yeah, in 1984, they put a goiter of an addition up on top of the house, which is all siding and a few windows. But the lower level is super cool. And
is this on the tour, or is this just one you pulled up?
No, this is just one I pulled up.
Oh, it's a Charles Dillback.
An architect.
Go back. It'll tell you. Yeah, Charles Dillback.
Okay, Charles Dillback, one of the most admired residential architects in Dallas District. Well, tell that to the guy who's going to tear it down and do a white box modern.
That's the point, right? They try to put those names out there.
Charles, what was his name? Yeah, tell him to move out of the way. I'm about to pose this out.
He was a famous architect that did several projects here in Dallas, and so he's a known architect. If somebody gets one of his properties, it definitely is substantial.
Yeah, that's a cool story, but this is going to be a modern house. This is going to be not a mid-century modern. This is going to be a 2025, 8,000 square foot.
Good possibility they're going to
view of the lake there. So this will be a $15 million house by the time it's done. Anyway, super cool. But all right, so let's look at a few here of actual newer houses that I thought you could use some staging. I know one of them. And they made some very strong design choices. So this is 6766 North Haven. North Haven is a beautiful road. It was actually decimated by a tornado a few years ago. So some of the, forgive the small trees because they could not help that. Yeah. But North Haven Gardens, awesome. Great place to go. So, speaking of, this whole backyard might be turf. But this is kind of a modern, kind of a new age modern house, just large, polished concrete floors. They spent a lot of money on art. So the reason I picked this one is because, so this house is listed for $5.5 million. It's on North Haven, so a great part of town, almost an acre. But they just made such strong design choices that I think that whoever buys this is going to end up probably making some changes. I don't know. I may be wrong, but it's very neat.
It's a very cold modern.
Really wide hallways. They're art lovers. They do have a lot of art, which is neat. I just don't know if I would be. I mean, this couch doesn't really go a ton in a modern house. It's like a restoration hardware leather couch. You can argue with that. They're comfortable, but they don't. They've got the river table. I was efforting to make a river table for the dining room. I actually still have the pieces of wood out in my garage. I had started doing this, and this is very popular for a while. It's 2 pieces of raw wood with epoxy in the middle. It looks neat, but kind of hard to make. But look at this kitchen. It's almost like they went for a loft feel. I'm assuming these are brick veneer. It's like a brick veneer.
Yeah.
But then look at like this wine. They've got a raw edged wood wine rack or something right in the middle of the kitchen. I mean, against one of the walls.
Well, they got the table to go with it there.
And the divider between the living room and the kitchen is this faux wall that is actually the refrigerator. So they put the refrigerator right in the middle of the floor to divide the room between the living room and the kitchen. So they did kind of go for this loft type feel, but it's a house. I don't know. Very strong design decisions here. And I just think whoever
bold contrast here.
I mean, this is $5.5 million. Yeah, $5.5 million. I just assume someone's going to come in.
It could be cool, but it needs to be warmed up. It's very, very cold.
If this was a loft in downtown Dallas, that actually had this stuff in it, it would look really neat. It would make more sense because it was like they were trying to. They just got a lot going on. They've got a lot of ideas. They went with the metal corrugated backsplash for the
traditional bed
wall, and then a very traditional bed.
Yeah, interesting.
Polished tile floor or something. Yeah, they got the polished floors everywhere. Which, hey, look at this dresser. This dresser has nothing to do with this house. I mean,
that was a budget stage.
Very schizophrenic design choices here. But so we went and looked at tile the other day, and man, there was some beautiful quartzite out there. I mean, this is either a quartzite or a polished porcelain. It's beautiful in the bathroom. So they have some neat things, but a lot of the choices. Look at this desk, a traditional desk in a modern office.
A very budget-friendly stager did this house.
Or this was just their family's stuff.
Maybe.
Anyway, but I wanted to show you this. So the next one doesn't even have staging. So at least this one has some staging. The next one is $6 million. It is on 5 acres out in Parker. Parker is a growing area, some huge lots out there. This is $6 million. This has got to be, 7,700 square feet. 7,700 square feet.
Wow.
Hey, Reasonable HOA, only $1,350 for the year.
How many garages does it have?
Oh, it says 11. Covered parking is 11. So this is, I think I originally found this looking for some of my car houses I'm looking for.
Okay.
So, but the problem is, okay, they've got a $6 million house.
$6 million, yeah. Is it a new build? Is that
2024?
The builder just built it and put it on the market. Got it.
Yeah. Okay. But still, you built a $7 million spec home, or maybe you built it for someone and they couldn't close or something that you got to.
They took our friend's class.
They did. They're going to bank $2 million on this thing. But you spend $7 million on it, or you want someone to spend $7 million on a house.
Yeah.
And you don't put a piece of furniture in it or a piece of art on the wall to stage it. That's crazy. This is an
Some
inlay.
people just think that. I mean, I get it. Back in the day with our builds that we built, we didn't stage them.
Hold on one second. This is 49. This is 4910 Cheshire Lane in Parker. I didn't say that.
Okay.
4910 Cheshire Lane. So yeah, I know there was times when you didn't stage your stuff. Look at this dining room floor though. This is an inlay. Look at this.
Yeah.
It's a quartzite inlay. I guess for the.
Yeah, it definitely would show better with furniture, right? Because you can accent and play. You could play off of that stuff. I mean, right. George Bash should definitely market these people and figure out.
George, go ahead at these folks at 49.
Yeah, because George Bass with his artwork and his furniture taste and all the things.
Kill this. Now, if you had a glass table on top of the quartzite floor, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So George, if you're looking for ideas,
that's your foyer. So, do you still put a table there? I guess you could, but.
I guess that is your foyer. I thought that was a dining room. Look at this wall. Lord of mercy. Okay. They used all the quartzite. They just murdered a whole quartzite quarry and put it on a wall.
Tie it into the entry. Yeah. Okay.
Look at this kitchen.
Whoa, I don't know about that.
Yeah, so this has got to be some sort of acrylic. Some sort of cabinets are this deep blue.
That's a thermal bonded acrylic, but the countertops, the quartz, that's a man-made quartz for sure.
It's very veiny.
It's too much.
It's like almost zebra-ish looking, not quite zebra.
Too much in my opinion. Some people might like it.
But this is what I'm saying. These really strong design opinions, there's a good chance someone's going to want to change this the day they move in.
Yeah. Again, it's a very cold design. You
have 2 islands. It's a double island. Yeah, it's a lot. You got a lot going on here. And these acrylic, look, there's no drawer fronts.
Yeah.
Can you push on them or something?
They're probably push button.
You know what it looks like? It's like that blue. It looks like it's that film that comes on appliances before you take it off. That's what it. Look at that carpet. It's just like this crazy pattern carpet.
We did great with my dogs until now.
And that's okay. They're protecting the house. More pictures of the very lively kitchen here. a lot of pictures of the kitchen. They're very proud of the space. Good grief, man. That's 15 pictures of the kitchen. Okay, now we're in the primary.
And they like blue. They obviously like the color blue.
When they murdered the quarry for all of the quartzite tile, they did have a little left over, and they brought it into the primary bathroom, and they actually used a remnant for the seat here for the kitchen. And I actually like that tile. I like the quartzite, but it's just a lot. So it's just a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, the only reason I feel okay giving them a hard time because they're listing this for $7 million. And I guess this is the secondary kitchen. My gosh.
Yeah. That's become quite a trend lately.
Well, you know, they need to do some, they need the green folks to come out and green up their lawn here. But my opinion on that is just, if you're going to do the two kitchens, call it what it is. Do your butler's kitchen with all the fancy stuff so you can actually cook a meal out of sight, make it super functional. And then out front where you're going to have where you would normally have your kitchen, instead of pretending, just make it like a Vegas style bar and do the onyx and do the bar and like just have it an entertaining space and just have a little sports bar TV that you can actually enjoy with your friends and hang out there.
I wonder, that the other issue, so something like that, and this is something, just an educational point on real estate. If you look there, I mean, this lot's really big in that neighborhood, but you have to go and comp it, and like it's very possible those are $2 million comps next door. And so when you got a 2 million or 1.5, 2 million, maybe they're $3 million comp.
You got this one over here.
Essentially though, the only thing supporting that is the land. To try to push it or triple it compared to what your neighbor is. And that gets you in trouble in real estate. You can't do that.
Yeah, because these are probably nice houses over here. Yeah, you're right. These are probably $2 million houses that look small from the aerial view, but they're probably really nice big houses. But you have this $7 million house right around the corner from a street with just, nice, but normal.
I get it. They probably got the dirt for it, but just when you're monstrosity of a house in a neighborhood where you've got smaller comps and less square footage.
It's a pretty house, and I wish them the best, and it does have some really cool 11-car garage. But I just think if someone's going to be spending $7 million, one, put some art up, stage it. I think you would do so much better showing it with stuff in space, because it would look so much better. But also these really strong design opinions. I love some of that quartzite, and I love the look of it, but just so much of it can really start to make a difference, especially when there's nothing to break it up. All you're seeing is the kitchen from the dining room to the kitchen to the entry, because there's no furniture to break it up. So, but they're not asking my opinion. They definitely don't care. It's a $6 million house. I don't want to misrepresent. 7,700 square feet. Anyway, well, that will do it for today. I definitely appreciate you tuning in. If you have not, find us on Instagram, Facebook, share this with a friend. We're on episode 101. We're going to be in this thing for a while. We've got some interviews coming up. We're excited about all the things. And for those of you who stuck with us for this time and been very faithful to this, we very much appreciate you. And until next time, have a great day.